We're interested about the States, obviously. I'm sure it's patriotic. As they turn onto my mom's lane, they walk up to her house, and my mom has a white house with a white picket fence. And my dad had always dreamed, since he was a little kid, that the woman he was going to marry had a white picket fence around her house. He said, well, I guess this is the one. So they communicated throughout the war, and then Mom came over on one of the troop carrier ships on a war bride ship. And I've been in San Francisco and traveled around the Midwest and the South, you know, following construction, doing dams, mostly with cranes. That's mainly what my father's trade was. He ran other stuff too, you know, graders and loaders and backhoes and all that jazz. And then we ended up in Wheeling, West Virginia. That's where Dianna was born, May 7th, 1949. Then we went back to Ohio. I was born 3 years later, 52. And then they ended up again at a strip mine in Wheeling, West Virginia, which they owned with two other guys. They supplied coal to U.S. Steel at the time. Well, they got snowed in. And they were sitting there in the middle of the snow, and they couldn't deliver, and U.S. Steel said, we can't use you guys, we're going to have to go with the competitors. So my mom and dad are looking at each other. They have these two little kids. What are we doing here? Let's go back to California. So I hooked up everything and went to that. Ended up in Bakersfield and found that there was a big job north of Santa Barbara, Lake Cachuma. And so we went there for about a year and a half to San Ynez and up to Paso Robles on the Central Coast, same kind of thing. And all this time my dad was following construction. We moved from house to house to house, but we always bought the house. And then we would keep the house. And my mom had been an accountant at her uncle's spirit business in Auckland. And she would run the books and the papers. My dad continued to make lots of overtime doing all these jobs. Mainly dams, new reservoirs all over California. Well, I was 3 years younger than Dianna, and about the time we were moving in from 6th to 7th grade for her, and 2nd to 3rd grade to 4th grade for me, my dad had this great idea that we were going to start a business to learn about, how the books and the mechanics of accounting started. So now, this is an unusual business because if anyone in here has anything to do with fishing, you know that you have to have good fishing worms. Has anybody in here ever picked fishing worms for a living? So this is our first business. My dad brings home a skip loader after work and digs these big gigantic pits, probably about from here to the first boat under here. And they're full of 4 foot deep gravel, sand. Then the rest has to be filled with manure because worms love manure. So we went around to all the farms and ranches in the area, very rural place, loading pickups every day after school, on the weekends. So Dianna and I, mostly my dad. Okay, so this, in order to start this business, we had to put all of our allowances into the bank account so we'd have, some capital. I thought that was kind of a joke. I think I was making 35 cents a week, and Dianna was making 50 cents a week. We didn't get to see this money for a year. Anyway, this went on for about 3 or 4 years. In the meantime, we're in swim team and band. Dianna started going to Rainbow Girls as an 8th grader. And the one thing she was always mad about was, remember, you're digging into manure, and you flip it over, and here's all worms looking up for you. You pick 55 worms at a time, put it in a container, case of worms, sell them for 35 cents a can. And all the new reservoirs, where my dad had a fish, and met all the guys, tackle shops, sporting goods stores, needed these worms because they were great worms. Well, after about 3 or 4 years, we were getting tired of this, and Dianna was always putting salves and different types of gloves on, and as she had gone to Rainbow Girls, someone gave her this huge bag of formal gloves. And so they were cotton and silk and other various, I don't know if they even had Dacron in those days. But she would put these on to protect her hands because we're digging in manure, right? So I think that was probably an omen or a precursor to the drama business because, no matter how deep in the shit you dig yourself, you got to look fabulous. here's where I'm going to have you to join me in a cameo, if you would. You know, remember, rule number 2. Now this is no shit. We're all going to do this together just for fun. Well, we finally got to look at the passbook for Century Federal Savings. Mom had been keeping the books, and we sold all the rest of the warrants to one of our competitors in the valley, along with our accounts. We were happy to get out of there. He was happy to get our stuff. They finally showed us the money we made. So we had this thing for about 4.5 years. I'm going into 8th grade. Diana's going into her sophomore year in high school. She has since graduated from 17 magazine to Vogue, and she's been getting all patterns at home and making all these crazy, weird costumes, I call them, from Paris, London. She wore these things to school. Who's this weird chick that keeps wearing? And so, at any rate, I'm sure, and she sort of shortly thereafter, she went to Cosmopolitan for reading that. Well, we looked in the passbook, and there's $3,100 in there for little kids, you know. Of course, it's the 60-40 split, so I thought that was kind of a chip, too. Anyway, but the thing that blew our minds, you could buy a brand new 66 Chrysler for $3,000. My dad just bought my mom one. So Diana's thinking, wow, man, I can buy a car, you know. Well, our old neighbor next door, Mr. Keller, he had a DeSoto Fire Dome with a 383 engine in the Hemi, some of you guys know what I'm talking about. And that's what the new Chrysler had in it. So as soon as I could drive 15.5, Diana would come back from San Francisco State and we'd race those babies, man, just to see what they do. And that old fire dome would always, get to a certain point and then stop. But of course, Diana was gone in the new car. Well, you know how things can change so quickly, you know, and they have. So looking at that money, that was no shit, you know, we actually had some dough. And I'd like to thank you all for coming today, certainly. But there's one person I really like to thank a lot. You know, if you ever see somebody in the wrong line, you know, make sure you bring them over to the right line, because that old 3C's bulldozer instructor that called my dad over the Navy line, you know, really deserves my thanks and my debt of gratitude. And I want to thank him very much. I certainly want to thank all of you, and I know Diana does too.
Even though Diana basically grew up in Atascadero, California, you know, you could still make her cry by calling her a little hillbilly. Anyway, we'd like to hear from